Salutations, fellow knights of the Puzzle Piece Table. My name is Sir Hamzalot, and welcome to the next installment of Aspie's Guide to Gaming. And today we are going to be reviewing another console. And little known fact, I was going to save this for September. You'll see why in a minute. But I had an original plan of reviewing a game, but I kind of don't have the hardware and software for that yet. Don't worry, I'll get there. But today is another console review, and which console are we going to review? You may be asking. Well, I'll tell you. The SEGA Dreamcast. Now, but today we are going to talk about the history behind the Dreamcast, the main history, my history with the Dreamcast, the hardware, the software, and the recommended games for it. Let's get started, shall we? Now, with the Dreamcast, it pretty much had one of the shortest lifespans of any successful game company console. Like, this is literally the time span of when the Dreamcast was supported by Sega. It was September 9th, 1999 to January 24th, 2001. That's short. But the Sega Dreamcast was revolutionary at its time. It was the first game console to be 128-bit, I don't know what that meant, to be 128 bits processor. I'm not sure what that means, but oh well. Everyone cared about bits and had no idea what they were, to be honest. And for some games, it offered online play. It was the first console to offer online play by a 56K dial-up. For those who don't know, that's the same kind of thing a landline uses, I think. Anyway, but basically, there are multiple reasons I've heard of how the Dreamcast failed. One, the PlayStation 2. The PlayStation 2 basically put the Dreamcast to shame, which is kind of sad because the Dreamcast is a really good console. But the PS2 had a few characteristics that were better than the Dreamcast characteristics. The PS2 had compact discs, whereas the Sega Dreamcast has some other kind of discs, the DB disc, I don't know what it's called. I forget what it's called. And there's a whole bunch of other reasons I can't remember at the moment. But what I think the biggest reason the Dreamcast failed is because the PS2 could play DVDs. The Dreamcast cannot. Those are just many of the reasons how the Dreamcast failed. There's also others, but yeah, either way it kind of flopped. But yeah, either way, it's one of the best looking consoles out there. But with my history about it, with the Dreamcast, it's kind of interesting. As some of you as I doubt any of you know, I'm pretty much the same age as a Dreamcast, only just a few months older. I'm only 4.5 months older than a Dreamcast, which is kind of interesting. Never thought. I mean, some game consoles are older than me, but some of them either are really aging poorly sometimes. For some reason, I don't know why I said that. I don't know. Anyway. But the Dreamcast is actually a console I was looking forward to getting. Like all other consoles I've had, I don't get really excited for. It's just a new console in my collection. Except for the NES, I'm glad I have that. But the Dreamcast, it's my first Sega console. And I just got this last week, and I wanted it for you have no idea how badly I wanted this. Sorry, just hiccuped. It's I wanted it last Christmas, but I didn't get it because my parents, Santa, never mind. Because my parents, well, they can only find one that was $120 at a different location, so I didn't get a Dreamcast for Christmas. Then I asked for it for my birthday, about a month and a half ago, and yet still didn't get it because it was too expensive. My usual gaming place I know to get one is called GameSwap. It's like a resale shop that fixes game consoles. Literally, they work wonders for really cheap. Like, they fixed my NES. They replaced the pins on my NES for like $20. Anyway, they pretty much sell really expensive old game consoles for a really high price. Like I said before, the Dreamcast, the GameSwap is $120. However, this Dreamcast I got from another game store that's also an arcade near where I live called Arcade Legacy. This thing was way cheaper. I'll give you 5 seconds to guess how much it was. Go on, guess. I don't know. 45 minute dollars. There. Getting my words in a cluster. My bad. It was $45 or less. It was really way cheaper, which you can tell because of the discoloration. It's something you have to do. It's something you have to live with older consoles. It discolors a lot, especially if it's white. It yellows. I gotta get that looked into because I really want it to look like it came fresh out of the box. But thankfully, with my own hard-earned cash, just last week, like I think it was 5 days ago. Yeah, 5 days ago, I literally got this bad boy for really cheap. And I couldn't be happier anyway, regardless. Now that we talked about brief history of the Dreamcast's history and my history with the console. By the way, I never owned it as a kid. As a kid, I only had a PS1. Stay tuned. Anyway, now that we talked about consoles the history of this console and my history with the console, let's talk about the hardware for it. As you can tell from the top of it, is a disc-based console. It has a power button and an open tray and an open button. And look how smoothly this opens. It's not anything abruptly. It's not like it doesn't open abruptly. Look at this. I have to agree with Classic Game Room, or Turbo Volcano as they call themselves. It's inviting you, like an open. I would say open arms, but it doesn't have any. It's welcoming you with an open tray to have you play the games. And it's one of those consoles like the N64 or modern consoles today where you can have 4 controller ports. I know it doesn't seem like much, but back then, in the 90s, 4 controllers were like insanely popular. We're not as popular. Like whereas the N64 had 4 controller ports, the PS1 and 2 had 2. Same thing with the GameCube. The GameCube and the Dreamcast had 4 controller ports. PS2, including the Slim model, only had 2 controller ports. I'm not sure about the original Xbox. I'll have to get back to you on that, but I'm pretty sure it also had 2 controller ports. I don't know. This is before wireless controllers, so a 4 controller port was a great idea at the time. And a lot of consoles today follow that example, which I applaud them for. Good for you. But now, on the back of the console, yeah, and it's not as yellow, interestingly enough. Wow. It's coming loose a little bit. Oh dear. Let's get that looked at. It has an AC in, which if you misplace it, it'll be, or break your AC adapter, it'll be easy to use. A serial input, an AV out input, an AV output, and this thing, that's the 56K dial-up that I mentioned earlier. But also I forgot to mention, they also had a modem adapter. I think I can't remember honestly, but basically this thing can give you online cooperative play. You hear that, Xbox? Sega thought of it first, thought of online multiplayer first, way before Halo. So yeah. Now, the cords of the Dreamcast, like the AC adapter, it's pretty good. Let me show you as soon as I untangle it. The AC adapter, it's pretty long, but the AV cables are just weird. Like, hang on, let me untangle this real quick. Here's the part where it plugs in, right there. It was annoying, right there. And it's so long, but let me guess how long. But that's just for the AV cables, and the AV cables, they start there and end, like, it's barely the size of the console. Like, from points of the AV cables, it's like narrower. It's like shorter than the console's width, which is weird, honestly. But if you don't, but pro tip, I learned this. But if you're a retro gamer, you want to use HDMI for everything, which I've learned from another YouTube channel who I love to watch, Metal Jesus Rocks. He in his most recent video, he said he looked online for these HDMI cable for the Dreamcast, which is pretty cool, I have to admit. But so if I were you guys, if you have any next time you're on Amazon and if you have a Dreamcast, I would just go online and I would just go to Amazon Prime and, well, buy the HDMI cord for it. It only costs about $30, which I guess for an HDMI cable is reasonable. I don't know, honestly. But now that we've talked about the console itself, we can't talk about the Dreamcast without talking about the weirdest controller I think I've ever seen. Look at this thing. It's so weird. Like, has one start button and no select key. The D-pad is right there with an analog stick. And interesting. It has a cord on the bottom rather than being on top. It has an A, B, X, Y button, which I guess later consoles would. I guess the Xbox got its idea. Only they swapped X and Y in the color scheme, obviously. And on the back, we have two triggers, left and right, oppositely. But then for those who have a Dreamcast, you're probably wondering, you're probably gonna say in the comments, you're missing something, which I am. I know, I realize this. I'm missing a slot for the Dreamcast VMU. For those who don't own a Dreamcast, it's basically this little like, it looks like a USB adapter, USB like you put in your computer, but you put that in this little slot here, and you actually play bonus content in some games. But for all games on the Dreamcast, it serves as a memory card, which is why I haven't played any of my games yet. But in my games yet, because I don't have a memory card. Or, well, it's not really games, it's more game. Yeah, I only have one game because it's the only one Arcade Legacy that interested me. Now that we've talked about the hardware for the console, let's talk about the software. As in other words, the games that I recommend for the Dreamcast. I'm only going to talk about 5 games for Dreamcast that I would recommend. One of them being, ignore the price sticker here, cover my thumb, Crazy Taxi. This is a really well-made art. The Dreamcast, fun fact, was the best console for, like, arcade ports, for those who don't know. Like, Crazy Taxi is a game where someone who's the worst driver, literally has a job as a taxi driver, and you have to get to someone's destinations while getting the most money and points. Which is an interesting concept for an arcade game. And the Dreamcast, honestly, I've heard is the best console port for Crazy Taxi. As for other games, the second one I would recommend, Soul Calibur for Dreamcast. it's an arcade port that became graphically superior than the original arcade version. Like, literally, the arcade version looks like polygons. It's like Virtua Fighter bullcrap. Virtua Fighter 1 bullcrap, you know? But in the Dreamcast version, they actually look like people and are less polygonal. Like, it's impressive, and to say the least. And for those who don't know what Soul Calibur is, it's a fighting game where you fight with weapons. Weapon-based combat, you know? Like, what's that game? I can't remember, but I'll get back to that in a minute. Anyway, the third game I would recommend for Dreamcast would be Sonic Adventure 2. Because, well, Sonic. You can't have a Sega console without a Sonic game. I would say Sonic Adventure, being a launch title for Dreamcast, obviously, but to be honest, there are a few things that kind of ruin the game. Cough! Big the Cat, cough! So yeah, Sonic Adventure with Big the Cat kind of ruined the experience, especially with Froggy's AI. Good grief, it's a nightmare. I've seen YouTube videos. And, yeah. So yeah, Sonic Adventure 2 is better, but that's only because of 33% of the game, where you play the Shadow and Sonic levels, as well as the Cow Garden, as well as the Chow Garden. Everything else, I know I'm gonna get hated on by the Sonic fan base, and throw your worst at me. I don't care. Anyway, another game I would recommend would be, well, it was gonna be Phantasy Star Online. I would recommend playing that game, but because well, way ahead of its time, quote unquote, was an understatement for that game. It was literally the first online multiplayer RPG in history. But unfortunately you can't play it today because, well, the servers are no longer active. You can play the game still, but that would require hacking your Dreamcast. So yeah, I would have played Phantasy Star Online, but no. Wow, a lot of the games I've mentioned are either great games or are either good games, yet are available in different consoles, or Dreamcast exclusive titles, yet have some issues and that kind of ruin the experience. What are two games that are good for Dreamcast? Well, but however, well, yeah, there is two. Yeah, well, that was a rhetorical question because I already know two games that are good for Dreamcast, that are exclusive titles, A, and are great games, B. One of them being Marvel vs. Capcom 2: New Age of Heroes. I hear that's like one of the best fighting games of all time. Up there with like Tekken 3, Mortal Kombat 9, and Street Fighter 2 Turbo Hyper Fighting. I think that's the title of it. Anyway. But basically, Marvel vs. Capcom 2 New Age of Heroes it's basically so many character customization options. You can go either with like three players versus 3 players, with like Spider-Man, Ryu, and Wolverine, or you can go crazy and go BB Hood, Morrigan, and Amingo, who's like the only who got fired after that game. Like the character customizations are nearly infinite. You see, that was a very good joke because Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite sucks. Anyway, in another game I would recommend for the Dreamcast, and the game I wanted to buy first for Dreamcast, but I couldn't find it at a reasonable price because Amazon has it for $130. That was one breath. Is Shenmue. I have no idea what the game's about. I'm pretty sure it's like a. I know it's a Dreamcast exclusive, and I know the part where you're trying to avenge your father's murderers. Avenge your father by hunting down and beating up his murderers or something. I think. But honestly, I don't know about the story because I want no freaking spoilers. Literally, no spoilers. Don't you dare type anything in the comments. I will block you. Just kidding, I love you. Anyway, I think that's all I have to say about the Sega Dreamcast. I almost said Genesis. That is the wrong console. Yeah. So basically, so even though I have no history with the Sega Dreamcast, like ever until 5 days ago, you gotta admit, the Sega Dreamcast is one of those underrated gaming gems that should not be ignored in any gaming collection. I know Hello Kitty agrees with me, because there's a Hello Kitty Dreamcast. Anyway, back on track here. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I know it's been a while since I've like uploaded 2 videos last week, but sorry about that. But I'm trying to get back in the swing of things of getting ideas. Like, it's complicated, guys. I've literally had no idea what to do with my YouTube career. Quote unquote, air quotes on career. Because I've had I've had artist block for like weeks. But if you enjoyed today's video, drop a like you're dropping the bass. Wah, 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 wah. And give the old subscribe button the old smizzity smack. And I'll see you Fellow Knights in the next video. Dudes.